Isang magandang ika-20 po, ika-20 ng Disyembre, and 4 more days to Christmas, and a very, very long holiday coming next week. But the clock never stops for us. We never have a holiday in the global geopolitical situation. Kaya po we will constantly be with you and hoping that together we can fight back all the forces that are trying to create chaos in the midst of this season of joy dapat, ano? Kado is with us early this evening, and I have over 30 topics, but classified into just 6 major topics. And ang mahahaba po ay first part, second part, third part, ano, but the rest are just very short. Sa hulihan na po, yung mga international developments and some domestic developments sa huli, sa buntot, and sa simula po mas marami pong mga updates na importante para sa ating lahat. So we're waiting for our viewers to fill up, and in a few minutes we'll start. Kaado, you didn't leave the whole day, no? You were able to rest, Kaado?
No, I visited this Changi in Taytay, and it's a devastation.
What do you mean?
I used to go there, and I could hardly walk in the streets around the Changi's, and now only about 30 to 40% ang mga vendors, no? Which only goes to show na wala talagang pera circulating in the lower ranks of the socioeconomic class. Because that Changi caters to the CDE market, no? So, grabe, it's so nakakalungkot eh. Yung DV Mart, yung Divisoria Market doon, DV Mart kung tawagin, where we usually park, that used to be full up to the third floor with the vendors. At hindi ka makasingit-singit doon basta. And it's a good spillover of the Binondo market kasi yung mga taga-East Eastern Philippines, Eastern Rizal and all that, going east to Quezon and all that, diyan nagsha-shopping for resale in their particular barangays and municipalities. So it's so depressed. The market is so depressed, Mentong. My goodness. Pati yung mga eateries, no? I don't want to mention the brand, but we had no choice but to eat sa McDonald's because sarado yung mga masasarap na mga lutong bahay doon. Wow! Grabe. Grabe talaga. I mean, they can no longer hide it. And only, it seems, a lot of people in our Senate don't even understand what's going on. And I will go back to that later.
Yes. Well, ngayong hapon may statement ang Chinese Embassy dito sa Manila na nagpapaliwanag na walang anumang internal domestic interference ng China ever, no? Hindi po ginagawa ng Chinese government yan na interference in internal affairs of any country. Yan po ay sagot doon sa mga megaphone politics propaganda ni JBR ito. Mukhang ngayon defensive na si JBR ito dahil napakaraming mga bumibira sa kanya sa social media na kanyang inaakusahan na pinopondohan daw ng Chinese government. So napakaraming umaatake sa kanya and wala naman siyang maipakita pong ebidensya doon sa mga pinaparatang niya, yung mga akusasyon niya. Particular si Mark Lopez, at hinahamon ni Mark Lopez na magtawag ng hearing at investigasyon si JV Ejercito at isubpina siya na isa sa mga inaakusahan ni JV Ejercito na vlogger na pinopondohan ng Chinese government. So nasusubaybayan ko yung mga post ni Mark Lopez at wala namang magawa si JV Ejercito kundi ulit-ulitin lang yung mga kanyang mga akusasyon na wala siyang ebidensyang mailabas. So he is really very defensive, but that's a good lesson for him and for the others who are making such accusations, no? And that's an eye-opener for many Filipinos sana kung ito ay sana ay makita ng iba na ating mga kababayan, kabansa. Okay, and first Verdan Dizon is with us, Willie Tang, Froy De Silva in this one Facebook natin, James Moreno, Al Galang, one of the early birds, and Brian Jerome Pineda. Dito sa isa, Joshua, hindi pa nabubuksan nata, no? Let me just open it up. Ako na magbubukas. Okay. Juliet Camaro is here. And Nonalon Eugenio. Good evening, sabi ni Nonalon. And Rowena Quimado dito sa YouTube. Osman Zin, Hazel Ayes, Dionisio Ferreras, Enrico Abihar, Orly Dakuyanan, and Tasio Del Mar. Jamin Meiji is on Messenger asking us to react to or respond to. Bakit wala ko? Yun, anyway. To respond to this SMNI suspension ng mga programa at ng ginawa ng MTRCB. It's part of our agenda. So, pag-usapan natin mamaya. Okay, I will begin with just to report the Michael Chan just came in. Good evening, sabi niya. Comrades, just the first item sa ating mahabang agenda is our editorial and our policy paper for the end of 2023. Ang pamagat po natin, 2023 Betrayal or the Year of Betrayal. 2024, the Return of Sovereignty, kung saan nakikita ko, ang projection ko po ay lalakas po ang DDS, lalakas po si Sara, at lalakas din po ang mga PMA alumni sa kanilang mga pagpoposisyon sa mga issues, And may post nga si Kaado na video ni Sara Duterte. Kaado, nakita ko yon this afternoon, na sabi niya, the future and soon President of the Philippines, Sara Duterte, na bumababa sa sakyan at bumabati sa crowds, napakaraming crowds na naghihintay sa kanya. Bettina Tan is with us. Tandaan nyo mga Filipino kung sino ang iboboto. Hindi ko makita kasi yung last few words kasi nakaharang ng isang icon But I'll try to read it later. Can you remove that? Hindi ito, yung my heart, hindi ko makita. Kung sino, how do you remove the art? Pop-out chat? Anyway, ayusin yan. Kung sino di nyo iboboto, sabi ni Bettina Tan. Okay, good. Let me just check now. Okay. Let's go back to our topics, no? Okay. So, yan po. If you have time, it's a 1,000, maybe 900 words na article. And give us your feedback sa comments doon sa ating Asian Century Journal. Susunod po, this is a very humorous but I think very ito yung video ni Kaado na kanyang pinopost, And of course, Sara Duterte is enjoying 53% approval rating in one of the surveys, samantalang si Bongbong Marcos ay 48. Normally, dapat presidente po ang mas mataas kasi lahat ng atensyon nakafocus sa kanya. And alam naman natin, katakot-takot ang daming positibong propaganda para kay BBM every morning, every evening, every afternoon. Puro mga pinag-aanunsyo ni Bongbong Marcos, but there is no effect. He is still going down, going down, going down. Let me just go to this image of the season, which is the birth of Christ. Ano? But dito sa post ni MJ Balaguer, am I reading it correctly? Ayan po. Si Virgin Mary, buntis na Virgin Mary sa Gaza Strip, amid sa gitna po ng mga durug-durug na mga buildings po. It reminds us that ang ating laban po dito sa Pilipinas, konektado po dyan dahil ang mga Amerikano po ang nasa likod ng Israel talaga. Walang anumang klaseng poder meron ng Israel with 7 million population, 7 million Jewish population. And global population of Jews, mga 16 million lang. Israel is relying on the United States of America for all its bombs, for all its warplanes, for all its white phosphorus, everything that it is using. So ang tanong, bakit ginagawa yan ng Estados Unidos? For control of oil resources and its presence in the geopolitics of the Middle East. Yun ang dahilan lang po diyan. Yun ang totoong dahilan. Kaya yung ginagawa din ng Amerikano ngayon dito sa gobyerno ng Pilipinas at dito sa naghaharing uri po sa politika po natin, ay konektado din po dyan, which is to maintain control of their hegemony, their crumbling hegemony. But as we can see, I think 2024 is the year of the collapse of the US. Itong taon lang po, itong 2 taon lang pong nakaraan, na nag-collapse sila sa Afghanistan, nagko-collapse na ngayon sa Ukraine. Ang susunod na taon, I think we will see the collapse of Israel in 2024. All for the betterment of mankind, dahil po talaga 75 years na po naghihintay ng hustisya po. Yung milyong-milyong pinalayas po ng Jewish settlers dyan po sa Israel. Okay, next one. Column po ni kasamang Mauro Samonte sa Pinoy Periodiko. Tulad ng ilang mga kasama natin, tulad ni Daniel Long din po, positibo ang kanyang reaksyon doon sa ilang mga sinabi ni Bongbong Marcos sa foreign policy issues, doon sa kanyang bisita sa Japan, sa Hapon, para dumalo po sa ASEAN-Japan dialogue. And sabi niya halimbawa dyan sa mga interview niya doon sa Japan na walang dahilan na hilingin ang personal and grata status, ang pagpapauwi sa Chinese Ambassador Huang Xilian sa Pilipinas. Hindi naman ganyan kalala daw ang sitwasyon. And some other better phrased words about the South China Sea crisis. Pero sa totoo lang po, meron din siyang kasabay naman na mga sinabi na negatibo pa rin. Kaya ang masasabi ko po talagang wala po tayong maasahan na isang salita dito sa budol, na si Bongbong Marcos. We will have more to talk about on this matter in the next few topics that we have in our agenda. Gusto ko lang pasalamatan ang Mabuhay, anong tawag dito, news, Mabuhay News sa kanilang pag-ulat po sa ating pronouncement doon sa last media forum natin at yung policy discussion natin. Tungkol ito doon sa ating nabanggit just a while ago, yung ating 2023, the year of betrayal, and 2024, the year of moving on. So just for the record, you can visit Mabuhay News. Tulungan din natin yung mga news sites na maliliit at umaasang lumaki sa tulong natin at sa tulong ng pag-uulat ng mga makatotohanang mga balita. Mabuhay News po yan. Okay, and again, update for those who may not have followed this, but of course, I'm sure most of our viewers are very updated on the developments. Pero meron ding elementong katawa-tawa po rito na itong si Bayan Chairperson Teddy Casiño nag-file ng kaso laban sa Sunshine Media Network International, SMNI. Sa mga host po ng programa ng SMNI na si Madam Lorraine Badoy and Jeffrey Eric Celiz for 2 million pesos for allegedly red tagging him. But of course, ito ay propaganda lang. Wala namang panalo po yan dahil meron na pong lumabas na pasya in some other forum na wala naman, there is no such thing as red tagging. And number two, second point is, of course, these elements like Teddy Casiño, Franz Castro, are all connected to the CPP-NPA movement and the NDF movement, National Democratic Front. You can see it in all their writings of the CPP, of the NPA, and of the NDF. The National Democratic Front, kaya nga front ang tawag niyan, yan lang ang legal na mukha po ng CPP at NPA. Now, ideologically, you can always debate and discuss yung mga ideolohiya, yung mga ideas. But they are also engaged in the subversion and covert operation. Hindi lang po ng CPP, NPA, but to my mind, of course, this is the main thing that's objectionable to me. Collaboration din po itong mga to sa Amerikano. As evidenced by the 2019, if I'm not mistaken, video of General Parlade exposing the American supply of arms to the NPA that is landed by C-130 planes in the north of Luzon, sa Cagayan province. So, masalimuot po itong mga activities nitong mga grupo na mukha lang sa legal na larangan ng CPP-NPA. And now it also explains the link between Teddy Casiño, Franz Castro ng NDF, with the American operation to bring back the ICC, bring the Philippines back to the ICC, the propaganda campaign, black propaganda campaign against Sara Duterte, the revival of the human rights talking points, the human rights charter, yung mga anti-Duterte drug campaign charter, para ma-destabilize po ang lipunan po natin. And of course, ironic din po yung sinasabi ngayon dito sa Inquirer and several other news reports that si Franz Castro ng ACT, Teachers Party List ng NDF, welcomes SMNI program suspension. It's long overdue but a start of accountability. Alam po ninyo, yung mga ito, maraming daldal tungkol sa human rights, freedom of expression, freedom of speech, freedom of information, kasi nga sila din naman ay nagiging biktima din ng estado of the different periods of the government, under Marcos Sr., under Cory Aquino, etc., na sinusuppress din sila. But actually, they have never been suppressed in the way that they are now cheering the suppression of SMNI. Kasi itong, Kado, you're overheard here, Kado.
Okay.
So, nakakatawa na ngayon itong sila Teddy Casiño at Franz Castro at National Democratic Front, lalo na po yung atin ito, kampanya nila Ed de la Torre. Sama-sama kasi yung mga yan eh. So, they are patently identifying themselves with a campaign of the United States of America and its covert operations. No? So, ironic po talaga. Kaya po binibigyan natin ng highlight po itong uh, katawa-tawang reaksyon po ni Castro welcoming the SMNI program's suspension. And again, ironic and should somebody really bring a case questioning the MTRCB in suspending the 2 SMNI programs? Ano bang papel ng MTRCB? We have always known for the many decades past that this is concerned and focused on entertainment, on television entertainment, movie entertainment, not on information networks. Bakit sila ang naatasan at nautusan? At anak ni Tito Soto, si Lala Soto, am I mistaken ba kung nasabihin ko anak ni Tito Soto at ni sino ba yung artistang babaeng asawa ni Tito Soto? Ano? But what is the basis of this? Ano? Both public affairs programs of SMNI, a media company both owned by Suara Sugmet Media Corporation, blah blah blah, no, pinapaliwanag diyan, no. But sabi pati yung programa ni Presidente Rodrigo Duterte in connection with his utterance of death threats and use of profane language which the management failed to curb. Well, of course, we know these are just excuses for them to shut down and to slander the programs of President Duterte and Lorraine Badoy and Ka Eric. Paninira lang po ito because they were all discussing bigger issues of society when they uttered those words, those phrases. But we'll get Kaado's reaction. My reaction, of course, is talagang mas matindi ang suppression po ng impormasyon at free speech, free information, freedom of information and speech under the present US-backed Bongbong Marcos regime. Ano? Okay, this one I wanted to put an emphasis on. Kasi isa sa ginagawa ng Amerikano dito sa Pilipinas ay kanilang pagbe-brainwash po sa ating English-speaking elite and English book reading elite. Hindi naman lahat po gusto ang Estados Unidos or Amerika or ang kanluran, pero naiimpluwensyahan po sila doon sa mga nababasa po nila. Tulad ko nung medyo bata-bata pa tayo 30 years ago. Lagi po kailangan ako makapagbasa ng Time, Newsweek, Life Magazine, much younger, no? When I was much younger, Life Magazine before it closed down. And pagkabasa noon parang tapos na. Alam ko na ang katotohanan sa mundo. But of course, over time, especially after the 1998 Asian financial crisis, nung naintindihan ko kung paanong mga pagsisira, paninira na ginagawa ng kanluran sa ating financial system, sa ating peso, sa Asian monetary system, sa Thai baht and so on para pabagsakin po ang mga ekonomiya ng Asia. I started truly boycotting Western magazines, information materials and so on, and started focusing on the other side of the story, reading Iranian Press TV, reading Russia Today, Sputnik, reading China Global Times, China Daily, reading alternative news and information media like Information Clearing House, The Cradle, so many other sources of information. So ngayon may bago po, parang yung mga sulat po nila Maria Ressa, nila Sheila Coronel, nila Vitog, Marites Dangilan Vitog of PCIJ, yung sila Vera Files, no? Kanilang binuboost na naman itong si Patricia Evangelista at nilagay nila ang sulat po ni Patricia Evangelista na libro, yung anong pamagat doon, how let me try to expand this para mabasa ko. Yung kanyang libro, some people need killing, yun, some people need killing, yan. Yan, si Patricia Evangelista. No? So, nailagay po yan sa top 10 bestseller list ng New York Times. Ayan, yan ang gimmick nila. Lalagay po nila, tulad si Maria Reza, ginawang Nobel Peace Prize awardee. Ano? Itong mga libro na gawa po galing sa mga manunulat ng alaga ng Omidyar at National Endowment for Democracy na Raffle, ano, ay kanilang nilalagay sa bestseller list. Ano. Nagkaroon pa ako kaagad ng debate sa Diliman Book Club na ako ay kasama from the very beginning, 2009 pa po. Ano. Iniwanan ko na dahil marami ding mga magugulong mga elemento po doon. Pero pinasukan po kasi mga higit sa 1,000 na ata ang mga participants sa Diliman Book Club Facebook and mga posts nila. Pinasukan ng mga troll nitong mga pinklawan, dilawan ng mga Amerikano at pinagpupuri based on the New York Times bestseller list. But of course, alam natin po na itong mga manipulasyon, mind manipulation ay talagang extensive po sa Estados Unidos at Britanya at sa Europa. Itong New York Times bestseller list po ay manipulado po nila. Kaya po ang next image po natin shows this. In fact, marami ding mga writers na sa kanluran po ang disgustado po sa New York's bestseller list. Tulad nitong aklat na lumabas po, Journalistic Fraud, How the New York Times Distorts the News and Why It Can No Longer Be Trusted. How Religious Right Scams Its Way onto the New York Times bestseller list. Ang dami pong mga skandalo na yan. We have discussed this once or twice before in our discussions here sa Opinion Online and sa ating Unfinished Revolution sa linggo. Number one po, walang publicly explained criteria po ang New York Times bestseller list. Kung saan nila hinuhugot po yung mga nilalagay po nila sa New York Times 10 best books of this year or last year or previous years. Of course, yung kay Patricia. Ano ba ang pakay po ninyo? Halata na ba po ninyo doon sa title lang po ng aklat ni Patricia, nandun sa baba nakalagay, no? Some people need killing. Siyempre, ito ay target sa mga Duterte, kay Presidente Rodrigo R. Duterte, and kay Sara Duterte, and the DDS movement, and the independent foreign policy. Yun po ang propaganda objective po nitong kanilang pag-boost, pagbabandera na itong sulat. Si Kado, go ahead.
Magkano ba sa estimate mo yung libro na yan?
Hindi ko tinitingnan dahil wala akong interest na bumili niyan.
Palagay na natin na $20.
Oh.
It only takes $5,000 to $10,000 book in 1 week to become a New York bestseller.
Yes.
Kaya ng budget ni Umidyar yan eh.
Oo nga, no problem.
No problem sa kanila yan kasi magkano lang yun? 20 times 10,000 lagay mo na $200,000 lang yan. Samantalang sa Rappler, front money pa lang ng Rappler, 1 million na doon sa Philippine Depository Receipts. Iba pa yung grant money na tinanggap ni Maria Reza. for Raffle. So this is a travesty. Mas marami pa akong libro na benta kaysa dyan eh. And yet I don't bark on or I don't bark about it.
Yes.
So
So anyway, yeah.
non-event yan, non-event.
Okay. But we have to tell the people, we have to
Yes,
also
yes.
inform our audience para pag marinig nila sa ibang mga bata, lalo na maraming bata, very impressionable. Oh, ang galing pala nitong si Patricia Evangelista, nasa New York. Wow, New York bestseller list. Wow na wow. Oh. Sana mapaliwanag po natin. Huwag po kayong masyadong excited kasi manipulado po yan. They're boosting the anti-Philippines ideology, anti-Duterte, anti-opposition, and so on. So yan po. No? Well, that's the end of our item dito sa libro ni Patricia Evangelista. No? Nasa economy pa rin po tayo, but this is the next set of items, no? Second set of items na ito sa economy. Before we go into that, let me ask Ado dun sa dami-daming unang batch na pumasok. What caught your attention? What would you like to comment on, if any? Or what would you feel that you want to comment on before we go to the second set? Wala pa. Naka-mute.
Unang-una, ito nabanggit natin tungkol kay JB Ejercito.
Yeah, okay.
Kaya kanina, tiningnan ko yung sa dictionary kung ano yung ibig sabihin ng idiot, imbecile, at saka moron. Yung palang moron, imbecile, at saka idiot. Idiot ang pinaka-idiot eh. Below
Okay.
70 pa lang intelligence quotient niyan. No. Etong si JB, I don't want to use the word, no? Pero mag-ingat naman siya because baka bilib na siya sa sarili niya. But it's common knowledge na, I don't want to use the English word. It's common knowledge na anak sa labas ni Joseph Estrada. No? Anak sa hindi ko alam kung pangilang asawa ni Joseph Estrada. So mag-ingat siya. He's not standing on solid ground of achievement. Wala pa akong nalalaman sa tagal na niya from Mayor of San Juan to today that would make him an expert on these matters of the South China Sea. In fact, sa mismong deklarasyones niya, nagpapakita lamang siya ng kung gaano kababaw ang appreciation niya of this very sensitive topic that involves our national interest. Hindi niya alam, obviously, na 7% lang ng ating populasyon ang nakapokus dyan sa mga moro-moro, mga palabas nila dyan, mga patintero, at para palabasin na China pa nagpo-provoke. How can China provoke something in a territory that it asserts to be its own? China is merely enforcing its own sovereignty. And we have contradicting claims. So the reality is, if we filled anything at ship, any projectile out, especially in Scarborough and Ayungin Shoal, nakikinig po ba kayo matindi, mga taga-subaybay ng opinion online ng GTNR? Nakalimutan na ba ni Ejercito na ang Scarborough ay ibinigay natin hands down O hands up. Mali pa. Hands up. Sa Amerika matapos na i-militarize ng Pilipinas ang Scarborough Shoal. Yes, we militarized Scarborough Shoal. How did we do it? A Philippine Navy ship, a gray ship, boarded 8 civilian fishing boats that were bearing a Chinese flag. In maritime law, mga kabansa, pag nag-board ang isang warship sa civilian, or any ship for that matter bearing another flag of another country, it is an open declaration of war. War, guerra against that country. And so what happened? When may mga dumating na ibang barko galing sa China and dahil sa standoff, hindi ko nasasabihin ng rason, inalis ni Noynoy Aquino on orders of Secretary Albert de Rosario ang BRP Gregorio del Pilar from the scene and left the Chinese in control of the area. And that's what they're doing up to now. They're policing the Scarborough Shoal. Ito ho yung panakot. Ito ho yung, anong pangalan yan? Masinloc. Baho de Masinloc. Pagdating sa Ayungin Shoal, ganun din ho. Militarize din ng Pilipinas ang Ayungin Shoal. How did the Philippines do that? Nagbahura po si ERAP ng isang barko dyan, BRP Sierra Madre, at hanggang ngayon nandyan yan. And China is there controlling and enforcing the law there. That is why hindi tayo basta-basta pwedeng pumasok sa mga militarized areas na ganyan. And sad to say, most of the South China Sea now, because of the 7 islands that were reclaimed and fortified by China, is basically militarized. And a lot of the classifications in the arbitral, even in the arbitral ruling, no longer applies. Katulad ng Mischief Reef. Katulad ng mga ibang islands dyan na inoccupy ng China. Wala naman ho sinasabi ang arbitral ruling tungkol sa mga yan. So we are really sailing on dangerous waters. And they are the ones that have the superior force. And over all international law, customary law. Hindi po nakasulat ang customary law. Pero ano ang customary law? The actual occupation and administration and effective control and defense, if necessary, of a given territory. Whether that's land-based or maritime-based. So, ano sinasabi natin? Aggressive action. Pagka kayo ba ay nasa loob na inyong bakuran, kayo ay subject to the laws of other countries? Kayo ba ay subject sa mga kapritsyo ng inyong kapitbahay? Hindi ho. Kung kayo papasok sa teritoryo niya, sa kahanggan lang kayo, kailangan kumatok kayo, kailangan makiraan kayo, kailangan makiusap.
Kaado, balik tayo kay JB Ejercito, no? At yun na nga, yung kanyang logic po ay hindi niya po mabackupan ng ebidensya. And kaya po siya siguro pumasok po dyan sa pag-aakusa na wala pong basehan. May sense of desperation siya. Ano po yung kanyang pangangailangan na desperado siya? Atensyon, sabi nga nitong isa na hindi naman niya kasalanan na anak siya sa labas. Pero yun maaring dahilan na kailangan niyang atensyon, But there is a second, more political reason why he needs attention. I think he is feeling left out in the public eye. And of course, nandiyan pa rin ang competition niya sa kuya niya na totoong anak ni Presidente Erap, si Jinggoy. But aside from that, there is competition now even among the American boys sa Senate. for a slot in the next senatorial elections. I don't know if he's running, but that is one, I think, motivation for his very active public presence with a wrong issue. Na ngayon ay napapasubo siya dahil hindi man niya kayang panindigan na dahil wala siyang ebidensya. At siyempre, yung hamon talaga ni Mark Lopez, we should really promote it kasi abusado na itong mga senador tulad nitong si JB na mag-akusa na wala pong kayang ipatunay, patunayan po sa mga pinagsasabi nila. Now, we don't know if Smartmatic will be restored by the courts, no? Kasi and by the COMELEC kasi nag-a-appeal sila nung suspension nila. But the issue in our election is still Smartmatic kasi karamihan po nitong mga senador, hindi ko nila lahat, but karamihan po niyan ay nanalo on Smartmatic, ano? Nagbayad po yan, karamihan po dyan sa mga yan. So I think that's one of the reasons, no? So let's move on from JBS ito. Any other issue from the past items? Patricia Evangelista, sabi ni Al Galang, kilala niya itong author na to. Malutong daw magmura yan. He apparently doesn't appreciate the personality of this writer. And sabi niya, ang presyo daw ay 1,500 nung aklat. Kung 150, baka bumili daw siya, sabi ni Kaaga Al Galang dito sa FB thread po natin. Ano? Yung mga yung mga yes.
Si Patricia Evangelista is part and parcel of the Raffler cabal.
Yes.
He's part of that. Sila yan eh. Sino ba itong nasa Columbia University ngayon sa PCIJ?
Si Sheila Coronel.
Sheila Coronel.
Sheila Coronel.
Sino ba ito? Dinggalen. Ano ba? Anyway. These people are paid.
Yeah.
These people are heavily paid and they get money from the US. Yeah. National Endowment for Democracy. What is the National Endowment for Democracy? Yan po ang overt Central Intelligence Agency ng Amerika. Okay. In 1983, nagpasa po ang batas ng Amerika na ang CIA ay doon na lang sa mga cloak and dagger operations, covert. Pero ang National Endowment for Democracy, tinayo nila for the overt intelligence operations.
Okay, pinost na ni Ka Joshua yung ating pinag-assemble na information dyan.
Basahin mo yan, Mentong. Basahin mo.
So, in the year 2000, ito ay na-publish po ng National Endowment for Democracy and American agencies po sa kanilang mga websites, yung mga kanilang donasyon sa Philippine media groups like the Center for Media Freedom and Responsibility ni Melinda Quintos de Jesus, 35 million. PCIJ, 25 million pesos. Vera Files, 6.5, 2.2 millions yan. Rappler, 7.5 and 180 million from Omidyar and North Base. And hindi pa kompleto itong mga to. These are just partial. So this is part, of course, of the US Fund for Global Media Propaganda. Matagal na nagpasasa itong mga to, pero the death of the US dollar is coming. So mapapansin po natin yung iba po dyan, tulad ni Heydarian na medyo nag-waiver na ngayon. Baka na-delay na kanilang mga payola, payola. Okay, let's move on. Now let's go to the economy, Ayan. Sabi ni Bobby Tiglao sa kanyang libro, Debacle, PCIJ and other media entities funded by the US government should disband themselves. But, puro banat sila sa SMNI, puro banat sila dun sa bloggers na inakusahan nila ng mga ng China. Dito po, napakalinaw po. Media that is engaged with the subversive operations of the United States of America, harap-harapan right before our eyes, pondo galing sa US, pumapasok dito sa mga ito. Bakit? Hindi po,
Bakit hindi yan ang kalkalin ni JB Ejercito?
Kaya nga, ano, so yan po ang leksyon sa ating lahat, no?
May pruweba yan, black and white. Pruweba. Oh.
Okay, let's go to the economy kasi it's now 6:50. At siyempre, we should also, by the way, I have one book sent to us. I will get it later, no? Baka we can raffle it off as a special prize for this. It's not political, not ideological, political, but about sports, no? And people might find it a refreshing change to have another major prize for tonight doon sa raffle po natin. But we'll have a raffle. So, Ka Joshua, ina-announce na natin raffle which we will spin the wheel at 7:45 ba? Tama ba? 7:45 tayo nag-spin, no? O, 7:45, no? I will show you the book in a while. Okay, sa Philippine economy, pilit po ngayon na inilalabas po ng mga ilang mga politiko po natin na i-boycott ang Chinese goods, ano, tigilan na daw ang operations ng Chinese business dito. But sa totoo lang, ano ba ang success ng Pilipinas under BBM and under the Amboys today in attracting investments from the United States of America na kanilang inaakit dito sa political o geopolitical alliance? Meron ba? Not a single one. Pero sino ang nakikinabang na malapit din sa China po? At hindi inaaway ang China kahit may dispute? Vietnam. Kaya po, ang next item natin po, well, there are two investments. China investment to Vietnam, boom, US spending down. And then the next one, ang susunod po, Joshua can show it. US companies Apple and Nvidia chooses to invest in communist Vietnam than in US ally, the Philippines. So marami pong balita yan. I got this again. We thank the blog of the RHK 101 Philippine Defense Updates, no? Pero nakita din natin yung gulat na yan doon sa iba't ibang mga news sites ng Amerika. So, imbis na sa Pilipinas nagpupunta, sa Vietnam. Kasi ang Vietnam po, magandang relasyon sa China rin. Merkado din ng Vietnam ang China para dito sa mga Apple computers and Nvidia. At mas malapit po ang Vietnam not only politically but geographically to China. So it's easier to export to China. So sinong gago ngayon lumalabas? Hindi ba si Bongbong Marcos? Si Gibo Teodoro, si Zubiri, sino pa mga nagdadakdak? Si JB Bautista, si JB Ejercito. So, ayaw ko ba kung bakit yung ating mainstream media po hindi inuulat itong mga to. So, let's move on. And sa tourist arrivals, ito po, actually, this is mga 2 weeks old, 2 weeks old, no? Balita at ito ay courtesy of Facebook, but this is sourced from the Southeast Asian Statistics, no? SIA Statistics. International tourist arrivals 2023 January to November. Malaysia 28 million, Thailand 24.6 million, Singapore 11.3 million, Vietnam 11.2 million tourist arrivals, Indonesia 9.9 million, Philippines 4.8 million. Ayan po. Yung mga maliliit na bansa, Cambodia ilan? 4.4 million. Tayo 4.6 million lang. Am I correct? No, 6 million. 4.6 million. Laos 2.4 million and Myanmar po. Of course, may gera sa Myanmar. 751,000 lang po. But the Philippines po, we can consider kulelat kasi yung tatlong bansa sa baba natin po ay napakaliit na mga bansa. So, in 2019, I think our tourist arrivals was 8 million, of which 2 million was Chinese. So, nakakatulong ba itong mga patakaran ni Bongbong Marcos, itong pivot to the United States? Nothing at all. By the way, this is posted by Crisette Laureta Chu. Thank you very much, Crisette Laureta Chu. So again, that's another aspect of update natin sa economy. Dito sa Pilipinas, hindi po nilalabas ng malalaking media po except yung interview kay ano, nakikita natin kay Tessie C. Coson, ano? But sa Xinhua News at ito'y napadala po sa atin ni Ana Malindogoy, no? Na pagpupulong po, pagkikita po ng politicians, business leaders, and scholars sa Pilipinas po who expressed their views that the maritime issues do not comprise the sum total of relations between the Philippines and China and called on the two sides to strengthen dialogue and consultation. Even Philippine Foreign Undersecretary Jesus Domingo, in an interview with Xinhua, noted China is one of the most important economic and business partners of the Philippines, and that their economic and trade ties are robust. Meron ding article po si Kaana, no, which we have been posting. What is the importance of China-Philippines economic ties and cooperation? So yan po. At least certain sectors of the Philippine government, of course, the business sector, meron din pa pala participation dyan sa mga komperensya. Ang Federation of Filipino-Chinese Chamber of Commerce, may interview dito kay Cecilio Pedro, may-ari po ng anong toothpaste yun? Well, anyway, one of the toothpaste company, Happy Toothpaste ba? But, and presidente po siya ng FFCCCII, Federation of Filipino-Chinese Chambers of Commerce of the Philippines, Incorporated. No? And so, well, I think what I want to point out is, hindi po inuulat ng mainstream media po ito. So, anyway, si Lucio Blanco is one of our colleagues from before na medyo na-recruit na ng Taiwan at kung minsan naglalabas po siya ng mga negatibo dito sa ating Philippine-China relations, but dito sa kanyang like many of the naglalaro para kumita, Lucio Blanco Pitlo, sabi niya, I think that is very regrettable. The South China Sea tensions and disputes tend to dominate relations between the Philippines and China this year, and I think that is very regrettable. So medyo positibo na naman. Well, the reality is marami po dito sa mga amboys na mga scholars po ay mga naghahanap buhay lang talaga. But unfortunately, of course, there are dangerous implications sa kanilang paghahanap buhay dahil hindi po makatotoo ang kanilang mga nauulat. Pero pag nabibigyan ng pagkakataon, lumalabas naman po ang totoo. Hindi po tulad ni Ana Malindogoy, talagang paglalaban niya, ang paninindigan niya na maganda para sa Pilipinas ang pakikipag-ugnay sa China. We'll move on to domestic economic matters like this Philippine external debt hits 118.8 billion as of September 2023. Multiply that by 57 pesos per dollar, and you can see how large our international debt is, no? Preliminary data from the BSP showed external debt increased by 10.1%, increase na naman from 107.91 billion US dollars in the same period a year ago. It also inched up by 0.8% from 117.9 billion dollars as of end of July. So palaki ng palaki po. Kaya kapag pinagmamalaki po ni Martin Romualdez na ang 5+ trillion peso Philippine budget proper daw at 500 million po daw niyan. Tama ba? 500 billion pa pala. 500 billion daw yan. Ayuda para sa mahirap. Panloloko po yun. Dahil po babayaran din yun ng mahirap sa mga taxes, sa pambayad sa mga external debt and domestic debt po natin. Sa kanilang bibilhing mga pagkain, chichirya kung naninigarilyo, sa tax sa sigarilyo, Siyempre yung mga mahirap maraming nagbibiro para malimutan ng mga gutom nila imbes na pagkain. May tax din 'yan, bla bla bla, 'no. So, tuloy-tuloy yung panloloko nitong korap na naghaharing uri po sa bayan natin po. That is why I have to mention at this point our appeal to the PMA alumni and to the active military officers to discuss the crisis of our nation and act on their conscience to defend the people as stated in the Philippine Constitution and to defend the Constitution of serving the people. It is not subversion. It is to recapture the Philippine government for the service of the people. They should really think about that. But of course, we are ready to help in any redirection of our nation towards the right direction. Okay. Tulad po nito, privatizing daw. Ayon sa Daily Tribune, government is privatizing 500 million in assets. Ano na naman po itong mga 500 million in assets na kanilang ilalagay sa kamay ng mga oligarchs na naman? Kuryente, tubig has been in the infrastructure has been in the hands of the private oligarchs for the past 25 years already, 30 years. Lalala pa po ito. Of course, they're waiting to get their hands on PAGCOR. NAIA, of course, marami na pong mga usok na nanggagaling po dyan sa NAIA privatization, mga kompetisyon ng mga oligarchs, agawan po ng kung sino makakahawak niyan dahil po katakot-takot ang bilyones po ang hihigupin ng sino mang makapag-control ng NAIA. Automatic profits po yan, na galing sa puhunan naman ng taong bayan. And of course, the Maharlika Investment Fund is also there. Okay, and we move on, then we'll go to Kado. No? Now, of course, yung nare-raise po ito very often now, no? Na hindi maganda ang relasyon ng Pilipinas at China doon sa ating issue sa South China Sea. Pero ano ang totoo naman sa negosyo? Sabi nga dito sa ulat na to, so diplomatic efforts with China failed, pero the business deal of your brother-in-law with the Chinese state-owned company succeeded. Ito ay si President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos is calling for a paradigm shift in the West Philippine Sea dispute, said the palace on Tuesday. It's time that the countries that feel that they have an involvement in this situation, we have to come up with a paradigm shift. May ang sinasabi. Pero sa kabila naman po, EEI Corporation said Tuesday it recently signed a deal with ZL Machinery Philippines Incorporated and Chinese construction maker Zumillion Heavy Industry Science and Technology Company Limited to service the Philippine-listed construction company's refleeting program. EEI will buy brand new heavy construction machineries for use in projects in the Philippines and abroad. Anyway, ito ay pinadala sa atin. That's why we're reporting it. Si Sastrogando nagpadala po sa atin. Sastrogando has been following this business aspect po ng mga deals ng mga involved sa administration po ni Bongbong Marcos. No? Okay. Ayan. Ay nako, sabi ni Sas, Bongbong Marcos, kung yung diplomatic efforts mo sa China failed, bakit yung business deal ng brother-in-law mo with Chinese state-owned company succeeded? Please explain. Of course, Bongbong will never explain. But itong naghaharing uri natin, itong ruling political class natin po ay corrupt to the core, sarili lang po inaalagaan. That's why I think our appeal to the PMA alumni and to the active military officers will get an ear, will get a hearing from them. Dapat maunawaan po nila na kailangan ng saklolo nila ang taong bayan. But anyway, let's move on naman to yung mga oportunista na mga tawag sa sarili mga aktivista. Mga alaga po ni Ed De La Torre. Dahil po sa failure nung nakaraang kanilang atinto fleet of 40 ships and boats to Ayungin Shoal, ano, ngayon nagmamatapang po sila kasi nga including Raymond Powell, Tariela ay natameme po dahil wala po silang mapuntahan na ngayon. Ano pang gagawin nila? Well, nagsalita ngayon yung mga civilians daw ng atin to. Laban ng lahat daw ang susunod. Civilian role in kicking China out of Philippine waters growing. Sabi dito sa ulat ng Inquirer. Inquirer News po to. Sabi dito, the gravest threat to the Philippines since World War II, Chinese occupation of West Philippine Sea inside the Philippines exclusive economic zone, which has to be fought not just by the Philippine military but by civilians too, said the group. Atin ito. Rafaela David, atin ito convener, whoever that Rafaela David is, but I will give some explanation later, told Inquirer net via FB Messenger that, quote, it is critical for ordinary citizens to take part in standing up to China as it sends a strong message that the Filipino people are united and will not be bullied by the giant nation, unquote. Number one response to this, of course, Kaado raised it kanina, only 7% of the Filipino people, based on the Pulse Asia survey reported on September 15, 2023, is concerned about the territorial issue. 7%, 7 out of 100 Filipinos. 93% are concerned about the rising prices, jobs, corruption, criminality, drugs, and so on. Okay. So, yung sinasabi nitong Rafaela David ng atin nito ay walang basehan na naman. Number two, I have been watching and looking at the Philippine Rural Reconstruction Movement. May building po sila. NGO yan. Diyan po sa Mother Ignacia Street, kanto ng isang scout. 4-story building po yan. Dati ako'y pumupunta po dyan regularly para sa mga meetings, kaya kilala ko yung mga taong niyan. Marami silang salo-salo doon po ngayon, siguro dahil doon sa ambon ng $5 million ng Operation Mushu, ano? Sila Ed De La Torre, and kilala ko yung marami din sa grupo po nila, sila Joel Paredes na dating information po Minister o Secretary ni Erap Estrada, si Ed De La Torre nasa gobyerno din ni Erap, yung isang kanilang patriarch na yumauna si Boy Morales, secretary din ni sa cabinet ni Erap Estrada and so on. So ayan, well, my second point here is kung ang mga mangingisda na Pilipino na ni-recruit sana ng Philippine Navy at Philippine Coast Guard para maging maritime militia ng Pilipinas ay tumanggi dahil wala sila daw pakialam diyan, naghahanap buhay lang sila at wala namang harassment sa kanila, bakit sila sasali diyan? Ito pang mga musmus ng mga nag-aaktivista na sinabi ni Ed De La Torre sa kanyang interview sa ANC. I have been trying to look for it again, hindi ko na makita, pero sabi niya, marami dito sa mga aktivistang bata nagtatanong sa akin kung anong gumagawa nila, anong gagawin nila sa buhay nila. Sabi ni Ed De La Torre, sumali kayo dito sa atin to. Yan po ang klaseng mga aktivista daw, itong mga Rafaela David na ito. Sa economy pa rin po, Now, ito ang dahilan kung bakit sila Mauro Samonte ay nagsulat ng positibo. Sila kasama Daniel Long ay nag-post din siya na mukhang positibo si Bongbong Marcos, no? Sabi dito kasi sa Disyembre, hindi, ito pala po ay post din ni Daniel Long comparing sa zona po ni Bongbong Marcos at yung, kay SAS ba to? Kay SAS din pala to. Yun, nandun. Na positibo si Bongbong Marcos nung zona niya 2022. Tapos dito sa 2023, Marcos eyes radical solution in West Philippine Sea. Anong radical solution mo, Bongbong Marcos? Nga, nagdakdak na naman sila para may masabi lang, pero wala po siyang follow-up dyan sigurado dahil wala siyang magagawa. Sabi ni Bongbong Marcos, BBM is calling for a paradigm shift in the West Philippine Sea. Paradigm shift, ang ganda, ang dramatic, pakinggan, parang matalinong patalino. Anong kahulugan yan? Saan ka mag-shift? Anong paradigm? Wala po siyang follow-through sigurado dito. Tapos sabi niya, it's time that countries that feel that they have an involvement in this situation, we have to come up with a paradigm shift. Yeah, the usual bombastic talk, but there is nothing that he will do really about it. No? But nung 2022, sabi niya, we will cooperate with China. We will develop a consensus. After all, that is the Filipino way. Bakit, Bongbong Marcos, hindi ka na Pilipino ngayon? Amerikano ka na? Kaya puro conflict ang hinahanap mo? Okay. Ito na yung dahilan kung bakit naman sila Mauro Samonte, Danny Long, and some others are saying, gumaganda naman ang lingwahe. Pero sa kabila po ito nung negatibo ng mga pinagsasabi niya. Marcos says, no need to expel Huang. Ambassador Huang, ambassador will always take China's position. So no need daw to expel Ambassador Huang, sabi po dito. Okay. Yan ang positibo ngayong sinasabi niya. But let us remember, I've always been saying that ASEAN does not like what is happening to the Philippines and what it is doing with the United States of America to taunt, to provoke, to irritate China. Sabi po ng Bangkok Post, December 17, because every day I visit Bangkok Post, I also visit the Indonesia, Jakarta Post, and I will be also starting to visit the Star of Malaysia and the Straits Times of Malaysia. So monitor ko, and I will be updating our audience on the ASEAN position on these relevant issues. But sabi nung December 17, nung nagsimula ang ASEAN-Japan meeting, ang editorial po ng Bangkok Post ay sabi, tread carefully on South China Sea. Thailand hopes that Sunday's discussion between ASEAN and Japan about solving disputes in the South China Sea will tread carefully to avoid any problems with Beijing. Sino bang sinasabihan ng Bangkok dito? Hindi yung ibang mga ASEAN countries kasi lahat naman magandang relasyon sa China. Pinapaalala ng Bangkok Post, our brother in ASEAN, sa Pilipinas. Yan. So, you know what ASEAN is thinking about Bongbong Marcos. Sila'y nag-aalala. Baka isubo nitong Bongbong Marcos na to sa kaguluhan ang buong ASEAN. O again, yung sinabi ni Bongbong Marcos doon sa Japan din po to, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, December 17. Marcos daw says, more assertive China is a real challenge to ASEAN neighbors. Wala pong challenge sa other ASEAN neighbors. They're all very happy with China. Kaya kita po natin dito sa headline that Bongbong is twisting all the words he's using just to satisfy the American propaganda machinery. And again, this is a repeat of that. No reason to request China to recall Chinese ambassador. Sabi ni Bongbong Marcos dito sa Japan din ito, Truth of the matter is mapalitan man si ambassador, pareho pa rin ang sasabihin ng susunod na ambassador dahil yon ang linya ng China, which is correct. So sabi nga ni Danny Long sa atin, sa ating Viber group, tingnan niyo ang itsura ni Bongbong Marcos dito. Mukhang matinong-matino, maaliwalas po ang itsura, mukhang alam naman po ninyo mga balita tungkol sa pulburon. Mukhang malinis siya dito ngayon. Ang problema kung dumating na naman ang service ng pulburon, baka iba na naman ang sabihin. So again, this is part of the news na negatibo naman. Diplomatic efforts fail. Marcos eyes radical solution. And I've said there is no radical solution except to go back to meeting China halfway na offer ng China, negotiate the sharing and start exploration of the resources of the South China Sea, and revive, which we have some news again later, the talks on the Recto Bank, Reed Bank, oil and gas exploration and sharing of 60-40. Sana hindi masira yung 60-40 dahil tayo ay lamang po doon, pero sinira po ni Terry Boy Locsin at ibang mga amboys. We will go on with that. No, while he was in Japan, si Bongbong Marcos, meron silang usapan ng Prime Minister Kishida ng Japan, whose popularity is below 20% anyway, have agreed that Bongbong daw and Kishida have agreed to speed up talks of a prospective visiting forces deal that would allow the armed forces of both countries to enter each other's territories. Now, you have two invaders that will be in the Philippines with their military and their bases, America and Japan. Pero yung kaalyado natin laban sa mga Hapon, nung Second World War, ang China po, ang itsapuera. Anong klaseng patakaran yan ni Bongbong Marcos? Okay. In the meantime, ito po, dumating po sa atin just a few days ago. Hundreds of US military vehicles and equipment arrive in Subic Bay, Philippines. Ayan po, tuloy-tuloy po. Tahimik sa background po, tuloy-tuloy ang pasok ng American military equipment. Kung itong hydrofoil ay naintindihan ko, pero yung mga dumadating na mga Humvees, mga iba't ibang mga land vehicles and so on, I don't know what the purpose of that is. Kasi po, if they're going to defend or attack Taiwan, why do they need Humvees, tanks, and so on? I half suspect that they are going to use this to control the political situation internally in the Philippines also. So we will see. Okay, well, yung Xinhua interview na pag-usapan na natin, I'll move on to Chacha now. This is 2.7, item 2.7. I want to say that noon in February 13, 2023, sabi ni Marcos, charter change not a priority. Ngayon po, sabi ng GMA News Online, Marcos, Chacha should focus on attracting potential investors. Now, I have been explaining that there is no need to attract potential foreign investors, that yung mag-i-invest po dito, nandito na sa loob, sila Manny Pangilinan, sila Ramon Ang po, foreign money po ang nasa likod po ng mga yan. Pumapasok lang po sila sa overly profitable, privileged sectors of electricity, water, infrastructure. Pasok na po sila. Wala nang ibang kailangan to attract them. And as we reported kanina, instead they will go to Vietnam, which has 50% lower electricity prices for manufacturing, and nearer to the markets of mainland Asia tulad ng China, and other mainland Asia countries. But ang ama ni Ka Joshua, si Ferdy Passion, I think is alerting us to a very important aspect of the Chacha. And Kado, please take note because I'll ask you to comment on this later. Sabi ni Ferdy Passion, they just want to amend the anti-foreign military bases provision in the 1987 Constitution so that all US and US allied countries, including Japan, can have military bases here all over our poor country. They do not really care about the parliamentary system or anything else for that matter. They, meaning sila Bongbong Marcos and mga Pinoy amboys, just want to obey their foreign masters, US, EU, NATO, Japan, Australia, etc., etc. Now, those provisions, si Kado and I have been explaining this, is Article 18 of the 1987 Constitution, Section 18. Article, tama ba? 18? Section 18.
25.
25. I'm sorry, mali ako dyan. I have to correct
25.
that. 25, tama ba?
Article 25, Section 18.
Mali yung aking kinakopya kasi. Anyway, sorry. Article 25, Section 18. Okay. And yan po ay yung to briefly po, it says, the article Section 18 says, there should be no foreign military bases in the country except if ratified by the Senate and or I'm not sure kung or and, no? Or by a referendum of the people, ano, which both has not happened, but the Supreme Court approved it based on the manipulation of the Supreme Court Chief Justice, who was eventually removed also for being illegally placed in the Supreme Court. So, yan ang mga updates that I will ask Kaado to comment on, including this one, which Kaado posted, which is very important, which shows po direct interference of the Americans and direct engagement with the Filipino-American boys, the real traitors, because they're working with the Americans directly, in front of everybody's eyes. But from the words of Raymond Powell himself, we catch them and we have basis to charge them for some crimes against the state. May legal discussion kailangan analysis dito. Pero sabi ni Raymond Powell, because of what they've had just transpired dito sa atin ito, a blockade that China imposed and use of water cannons and so on. Sabi ni Raymond Powell, the Philippines and the US are going to have to start having some very direct conversations about what constitutes, in quotes, unarmed attack on a public vessel. And make sure they, meaning the Philippines, communicate clearly to Beijing how close China is coming to triggering far more serious consequences. Sabi ng Powell, who has retired from the US Air Force. Now, anong mga implikasyon nito, Kaado? Number one, they're having direct communication on a matter that they have no business discussing. Tariela and company, Galvez or Anyo have no business discussing this. Because the terms of the so-called armed attack, the definition is there in the Mutual Defense Treaty. How can you, a mere ex-US colonel of the Air Force, talk with Tariela and company or even Anyo on your level? You are not authorized, you have no power, you have no status to discuss this. Number two, I think this is a reflection. Itong pagpapakita po ni Raymond Powell ng desperasyon. Bakit siya magsasalita sa publiko na parang threatening China that they will redefine armed attack including water cannon? Yan po ang nahalata ko na blank wall na talaga ang hinaharap po ni Raymond Powell at nung mga bata-bata niya tulad nila Tariela. That if they want to escalate, their next move is talagang physical clash with the Chinese Coast Guard and civilian voluntary fishing vessels. And akala ba nila mapapaatas nila ang China dyan? Parang nakakalimutan, sa bagay bata pa itong si Raymond Powell. Hindi niya naalala na nung natalo ng China ang US forces ni MacArthur sa Korean Peninsula. Nung panahon na wala pang jet planes ang China, wala pang mga flying bombers ang China, kulang-kulang ang mga tangke ng China, tinalo nila ang US forces combined with, of course, the UN forces at that time, including the Philippines. So, ano bang gusto ni Raymond Powell sa public statement na to? Kaya tama ka, Kaado. this is a must read for every Filipino. Ano? And dapat isampal po itong mga ganito sa mukha ni JBS ito. Kay Romualdez et al., Subiri, Gibo Teodoro in particular. Nilagay ko rin dito ang na-anunsyo na plano ng mga Amerikano, it's time to build combined forward operating base Sierra Madre. Paulit-ulit po natin nire-raise ito kasi napakalinaw na po ang threat to our regional and national security na ginagawa nitong Amerikano. Itong mga media po nating malalaki, hanggang ngayon tinatago itong mga very clearly threatening intentions of the Americans and the moves in coordination with local operatives ng Amerikano that are inimical to the Philippine national welfare, security, and interest. Buuin natin kung meron pa sa susunod. Hindi na. That's the next batch na po. So, Kado, again, napakarami po akong diniscuss. Which one did you take note of? Of course, the last one, we expect you to comment on it kasi nag-post ka rin yan.
Well, just as I've said in my Facebook posting, here we are talking about protecting our sovereignty. But who is doing that? Since January 2023, this American retired. He's not even a member of the U.S. government. This American, at hindi si Bongbong, hindi si Enrique Manalo, hindi si Gibo Teodoro, has been lording our Philippine foreign affairs and defense operations, backed up by the U.S. Navy logistics, research, and resources of the America Competes Act to the tune of $500 million to stir tensions in the South China Seas between China and the Philippines, and obviously pre-stage more U.S. bases in the country. Paano naman na-default ang mga, sabi mo nga, walang personalidad tong hayupak na ito eh. In my honest opinion, Raymond Powell, a retired U.S. Air Force colonel, has been inserted into the Philippine scenario by Strat-based Albert de Rosario Institute to create conditions para mabawi lamang ng First Holdings and Forum Energy ang kanilang old investments in the oil and gas exploration at Reed Bank. Diyan lang ho papunta lahat itong katarantaduhan na ginagawa ni Bongbong Marcos na ginagamit siya ng mga subalterns dito sa ating gobyerno para maposisyon. And yet, contradictory, he's contradicting himself by saying na dapat pag-usapan na yung oil and gas exploration with China. All of this preconditioning is happening. Because of this Raymond Powell, who is suddenly part of our international political reality. Itong discussion na sinasabi niya, Mentong, about another conversation is again to be able to provisionally improvise for a rule-based na naman na gagamitin nila, just like yung mga sinasabi nilang gray zone tactics, mga assertive coercion ng China. But it is very clear in international law what the concept of non-lethal weapons is all about. No? And international law has for a long time contained rules that apply to the development and use of weapons, such as duty not to use weapons that inflict superfluous injury or unnecessary suffering under the Geneva Protocol 1. Ha? Ito mga taong to, wala naman talagang alam. Powell is definitely being held in account for all the pera na ginastos niya this year. Because Powell has been using the U.S. Air Force Poseidon plane, has been using drones, has been using the U.S. Navy, has been using the U.S. Armed Forces to conduct all this destabilization move. So now, and this has accounted to hundreds of millions of dollars. Alam mo naman, Mentong, when you deploy a single ship, kulang ang kalahating milyon just for a round trip to Pag-asa Island. Baka sa krudo pa lang. Malaking pera yan. And Powell has been using money. And so he will now have to account because it's a year-end and he must win his next year's budget. Pero itong katarantaduhan natin na tayo nakikipaglaro sa isang tao na dahil sino ba ito? Sino ba ito si Powell na ito? Kaya, Mentong, tama yung sinabi mo eh. I know you just didn't like to say it yourself, but you placed Powell in his right position. When you said that any conversation about the issues concerning
Walang audio ata.
Hello? Hello? Okay. Any conversation about issues, sabi ni Mentong, concerning the disputes over areas in the South China Sea should be between China and the Philippines alone. Klaro naman yan, that is common sense. Kung China ang problema, how can China be not a participant in the solution? Oh, you pointed out that the U.S. hindi naman signatory sa UNCLOS. So why should it assume, sabi mo, a role in the maritime disputes? They're way over their head here. You also said that yung kanyang Project Mushu, actually, ano na ito eh, Project No Show. Walang pinalabas, walang nangyari. At yung sinasabing assertive transparency strategy, tama ka. It has hit a blank wall. It has failed. No? And they're looking for the next phase to justify to their funders. Tama ka, finally, when you said that the solution should only be between ASEAN and China. Because walang pakialam ang Estados Unidos dito. And their mere presence in the double speak is the one creating the destabilization. Now, regarding yung sinasabi ni Ferdy Pasion, I'm sorry to disagree a bit with my friend and our friend. Kung ngayon, Ferdy, hindi na ini-enforce ng ating Pangulo. Kung ngayon palang, Ferdy, hindi na ini-enforce ng Supreme Court natin ang 1987 Constitution. Ano yan sinasabi mo na there is a danger na tatanggalin nila yan? Ngayon palang, etchas na yan. Wala na silbi yan. Not because of anything else, but because the President of the Philippines himself, I hate to say this, has turned traitor to the country at nagpagamit siya in violation of the Constitution that he has sworn to uphold, protect, and preserve and defend. Yan mga kabansa, ang another impeachable offense ni Bongbong Marcos. No? Na siya mismo nagpadagdag ng 4. Kung siya nagpadagdag ng additional 4 bases sa EDCA, therefore, he is not enforcing the Constitution. And if he is not enforcing the Constitution, then he is in breach of the Constitution. He is in betrayal of public trust. And he must be impeached. He must be removed. At meron pa tayong 100 other impeachable cases na pwedeng i-file sa kanya. But ever since he swore last June 30, 2022, he has been behaving like a spoiled brat na wala, he is the untouchable? No way. I am sorry to say. But if you keep on doing this, Mr. President, we may not see you next Christmas anymore. No? I myself am organizing something peaceful to remove you from your office. I'm doing it under the principle of under democracy, there is a majority of 1. Because my freedom of speech and my freedom to use the press is enough and should be enough and should be the only power that can bring down any other abusive power that is already playing around with our Constitution, playing around with our laws, playing around with our economy, enriching his friends in office, and distributing favors like he was the king. And the other day, I had a biblical reading from Daniel. Ano sabi ng biblical reading? No, Mr. King, we will not adore your false gods. We will not adore your false idols. And what did Daniel do with this? And what eventually happened to these false images and false idols? They were brought down. So what I'm saying is I will not deliver this country, just as what the vice president did. I will not deliver this country to the devil. And if anybody does that with the last remaining breath of my life, I'm willing to offer it for this country and to save it from people who just use the Constitution. Nakakahiya. No? Wala nang ginagawa. Pati itong Protocol 1 ng hindi nila alam ng Geneva Convention on the use of non-lethal weapons. At gusto nilang i-redefine. I am sorry to say, you cannot redefine it. All suggestions to solve our self-imposed problems. Bakit ko sinasabing self-imposed? Dahil wala na ito mga problema na ito nung umalis si Duterte. Binalik lang ito si Marcos Sa South China Sea ay hindi pwedeng mag-bear ng good fruit without China and China's sole mode of resolving disputes, direct bilateral negotiations. Why? Because ayaw ho ng China na may third party na nakikialam. If China and Vietnam can talk on even footing, bakit kailangan natin ng padrino para makipag-usap lamang si China? My God, mahiya naman tayo. Mahiya tayo sa mga kapitbahay natin sa ASEAN. Tinitreat na tayo na para tayong may leprosy. We bellyache China for alleged aggression. But we never complain about the U.S. repeated raping of the Philippines through their intervention. Anong klaseng double standard yan? Another rule for the U.S., another rule for China. This is one thing that we must learn from the Chinese. Biski na sila underwent 100 years of humiliation, hindi nila pinagpalit ang kanilang soberanya. They tried their best to consolidate all the parts of their country, even to the discontent and disagreement of other neighboring countries. Wala silang pakialam. Of course, Vietnam, which used to be part of China, and Korea, which used to be part of China, pinakawalan nila, and they're now doing well on their own. Pero yung pinaka-heartbeat of China, hindi nila pwedeng pabayaan yan. Yung pinaka-soft belly ng China facing the South China Sea, that is non-negotiable. And who is this Richard Raymond Powell to tell us? Huh? When we just know that he is earning for his lunch for tomorrow. Pera-pera lang to Mentong eh. Oh, yan si Subiri. Akala mo kung sino magsalita. Oh, ano ang sinasabi? Ano ang sinasabi ni Teresita C. Coson? Tungkol sa kung gaano ka-importante ang ating relasyon to China. Ito ho ang Vice Chairman ng SM Investments Corporation. And she's very worried because there are 35 SM malls dito sa Pilipinas. And there are 8 in China. So sabi niya, China is very close to us. We cannot be too hostile. Although we know what is happening, I think we can achieve it through peaceful negotiations. I think, sabi niya, we have to look at our own position. We don't want to get involved in the tensions between the U.S. and China. Mr. Subiri, are you listening to one of the number one businesswoman, I am sorry, in the Philippines? We need to have peaceful discussions with them because after all, we cannot change our neighbors. We just hope there won't be any skirmishes in the area because whatever happens there will affect all of us. At sa nakita ko kanina, Mentong sa Taytay, at sa nakikita kong continuing problem, alam mo ba, ngayon lamang, December 18 na puno ang EDSA. Usually, bago mag-December 10, puno na yan. Bago mag-November pa lang, narinig na natin si Jose Marichan sa kanyang mga corning Christmas carols. November pa lang, may mga nag-exchange gifts na. Ngayon, this late, I don't feel Christmas at all. And, alam nyo ba, ang holdings ng mga C, kung magkano total niya, umaabot na yan sa $3 trillion. Malaki pa ho kaysa sa Pilipinas, mga kabansa. So you better listen to Teresita C. Coson before she closes the 35 SM malls here in the Philippines and just go back to China as Subiri and JB Ejercito wants. At iwanan na tayo rito. Yan ang mga kalukuhan ng mga politiko. Ang solusyon po, mga kabansa, sa South China Seas ay wala sa mga politiko, wala sa mga abogado, wala sa mga may vested interest dyan, wala ho sa third foreign country, whether it's Japan, the US, or Australia. Kita nyo, South Korea, very cautious about dealing with this issue. Ang
Okay,
solusyon
Kado.
ang solusyon po dyan, last sentence lang, ang solusyon po dyan ay nasa mga ekonomista at nasa mga diplomats. Nandiyan po ang solusyon sa South China Sea, and it's only between, I will repeat Mentong's statement, between China and the Philippines. Wala pong mga pwede dyan na mga mariteses and marisols na involved. Salamat po.
Okay, it's 7:45. It's time for our raffle sana. But I'll move it another 5 minutes kasi hindi ko pa pinapakita yung libro na ating ira-raffle as major prize today. So, ito po, I hope you can see it. Tama ba? Kita ba? Yan. Yan. Closer to me, no? Yan. When we were champions tungkol sa basketball ito, medyo maiiba. Let me see, bakit ayaw makita? Yan. Okay. Anyway, this is by Ray Roquero and Sev Sarmenta. No, I'm sorry, by Noel A. Albano po, ano? Noel A. Albano. At ang blurb po dito ay Bork, Loizaga, Jaworski, and the Years of Glory of Philippine Basketball. Napakakapal po. And this was donated to us during our party ng APCU. So I will seek more donations of this book from these people that are mentioned here. And so that's the book we will raffle as a major prize today. By the way, our two Huawei watches po, siguro 3 kings na lang natin para mahabang panahon na maraming makasali, ano? By the way, yung iba pala sumasama sa atin sa Messenger, sabi ni LT, wonderful photo of Virgin Mary pregnant in Gaza. May I have a copy? Sige, padadala natin. At sabi ni itong LT, sabi niya, Patricia Evangelista first gained public attention for her English-speaking skills. She won in some kind of oratorical or other English public speaking contest. That is her claim to fame. Okay, and dito naman po merong isang hanapin ko pa, but ang sabi niya, he doesn't agree about our assessment of Israel. Actually, that's another issue we can discuss. It's very interesting. May historical basis po lahat ng mga aspeto po niyan. But of course, that's not our focus, no? But I was just pointing out the relationship between the problems of the Philippines with the United States and the United States and the Middle East and Israel, of course, and Palestine. So, konektado lahat yan. That's my intention in saying that is that ilagay natin sa konteksto lagi ang ating ginagawa sa bayan natin po, sa rehiyon natin, sa konteksto ng sangkatauhan. Because we're now such a small global community and everything is connected. And we want peace here. That means we want peace in Israel and Palestine. Maybe we can discuss someday 2-state solution, 1-state solution. So, but in other words, what I'm saying is let us get involved in all the issues. And maybe I just want to add, kaya po tayo binibigyan ng mga bunga galing sa technological civilization po natin. Kung saan tayo may laya, may panahon mag-discuss, mag-analyze ng lahat ng mga ito. And we must help everybody focus on this instead of listening to and watching Raffle Tulfo, yung Itbulaga, o mga entertainment po. But of course, we have to reach out to the masa, which is much more difficult. But that's my only point. We have to be involved in the global issues too. Sabi ni Andres Oligos, Sir, ano sa palagay po ninyo sa political future ni Inday BP? Pwede po ba natin sabihing 70% ang pag-asa niyang manalo sa pagka-pangulo sa 2028? Sigurado po yan. But of course, mahaba pa ang panahon at nandiyan po ang paninira na ginagawa ng mga Amerikano. That's why we have to work harder to defend the truth about Sara Duterte, President Rodrigo Duterte, and all the other issues that we're discussing. Mark Class says, bato-bato sa langit, tamaan, huwag magalit lang. Felipe Barba, good evening. And so on. Napakarami pong dapat basahin, pero we're not sure we have the time because it's already 7:50. And ready na ba, Ka Joshua, yung ating raffle? Kasi 5 minutes na since I promised that we would stage our raffle. Okay. Pwede nating idoble yung mga pangalan ng mga baguhang members natin, ano? Oh, shall we roll lang? Yeah. Sige nga, let's give it another 5 minutes kung ilan ang kaya mong idoble para mas mataas ang tsansa ng manalo po ng mga baguhan pong pangalan na nakikita natin. Algo says from Chris Alar, MIC, Marians of Immaculate Conception, his official page also support faithful canceled Catholic priests, bishops who promoted traditional teachings of Catholic faith. Coco Maximo is a new name here, no? Tumalon na po. So, sorry. I cannot find anyway. Let's look at the other groups. Okay. Joshua, tuloy na natin. Anyway, swerte na lang ng mga nadoble. Sana may manalo sa kanila. Okay, let's spin the wheel. And let's see. Grace lumampas kay Junaldin Pumbaya. I know nanalo na si Junaldin dati, but of course, the arrow landed on her name. So she is the winner and of the book, the first. No, we will try to get more books like this na ibang titles. And so let's spin our consolation. Yes, Kado.
Bumaba uli kay Grace,
Yan ba?
Nagbibiro lang ako.
Sige. Okay, next time na lang si Grace sana, ano? Okay. Consolation prize. Wala tayong title pa ngayon ng consolation prize dahil inaayos natin po ang mga listahan. And si Grace Kempis naman ngayon talaga. Ayun, si Grace Kempis naman finally ang nanalo for the consolation prize, ano? Okay, so congratulations, Happy New Year, Merry Christmas sa dalawang nanalo. Tuloy natin, dama nating mga nakalista. We'll just read through the headlines and discuss a little that we can, no? Okay, Ka Joshua, let's go back to the next headline. Philippines-China remain deadlocked over joint oil exploration in the West Philippine Sea. This is December 17. Now, this is the question now. Deadlock pala tayo, ibig sabihin nag-uusap pa. Bakit sinabi ni Teddy Boy Locsin noong Hunyo ng 2023 na terminated na? Anong klaseng gobyerno meron tayo kung ganyan? President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. said the Philippines and China remain deadlocked over the joint oil exploration in the West Philippine Sea, South China Sea, a project which has been shelved due to friction between Filipino and Chinese vessels in the disputed waters. Hindi yun ang dahilan na sinabi ni Teddy Boy Locsin. So, iba-iba. And if it is deadlocked, that means it is not terminated. There is an impasse in the negotiation. If it is shelved, it is not terminated. Of course, you can quibble with some interpretations about this, but to me, being shelved is not a termination. It is ended if it's termination. Yung tulad nila sinasabi, Kado, go ahead.
Can I have 2 minutes here?
Yeah.
It will forever be deadlocked if you put it under the Philippine Constitution. But
Yeah.
we have already solved this. Kung hindi pwedeng under the laws of the Philippines and under the laws of China, ay mag-agree tayo dyan. Ano ba importante? Yung gridlock o yung project? Bakit na-surmount ng Timor-Leste? Bakit na-surmount ng Indonesia? Bakit na-surmount ng Australia? At hindi biro ka, Mentong, ha? Because ginamit nilang itlos. compulsory arbitration ang ginamit nila. Hindi pa nga tayo nagbabilateral negotiation dito eh. Anything that can be the subject of a compulsory arbitration under ITLOS, conciliation ang tawag nila, should be very much possible and workable under a bilateral negotiation. What are we saying here? Elevate it to the level of a treaty, idiots, morons, and imbeciles. Itaas ninyo sa ulo ng ating batas at ulo ng batas ng China. At doon yung pag-usapan sa level ng tratado. Mga tarantado kayo, tanga-tanga kayo. Kaya nga sinasabi ko, hindi pwede solusyon dyan kung hindi ekonomista o diplomata mag-uusap. Kung mga abogado mag-uusap dyan, like Carpio, we will always be under the Constitution. Under the Constitution, walang oil and gas exploration. So, ang tanong, gusto ba natin matuloy yan o hindi? Yun lang.
Yes, okay. So when we move on, we should really push that treaty, but that's for another time to discuss kasi we're running out of our minutes. It's now 7:56, 4 minutes to go. Next item now is now international, no? Dahil importante ito and the issue of Israel and Palestine. I think this was just this morning na aking nasagap po itong balita at bagong-bago po na pinag-uusapan sa internet. Pope calls Israel's attack on Gaza civilians terrorism. And ito ay diniscuss ng majority report doon sa internet, And na-shock din sila na gumamit ng salitang terrorism si Pope. Kasi po doon sa sniper killing ng 2 Katoliko na naglalakad tungo sa simbahang Katoliko kung saan according to the Israelis meron daw sumisilong na mga refugees na mga Palestino, mga Arabo. And then they attacked the Catholic Church. So these are questions that some Filipino Christian Zionists na tinatawag, should really ask, what is going on? But we don't have time to dwell too deep into it right this evening, so we'll just postpone it for some other future time. And the next one po sa Israel pa rin and sa Palestine, sa Gaza. Internal opposition to Netanyahu explodes after the Israeli Defense Forces kill Israeli captives. May 3 Israeli po na hostage po ng Hamas nakatakas according to the reports, nakatakas at gustong bumalik po sa lines po ng Israeli Defense Forces. Sila'y naghubad to their underwear lang para ipakita na wala silang armas o anumang karga. Sila po ay nagsulat ng SOS at kung anumang Hebrew words po sa mga white flags po na sinasabi kami ay mga Israeli, mga Jews, pero pinatay din ng mga Israeli Defense Force snipers. Of course, ang reaction po ng mundo kasi akala po nitong IDF na ito, mga Palestino dito na nagpapanggap na Israeli. Nagpapanggap. Ang paliwanag po ng isang Palestinian, ganyan ang tingin ng Israeli Defense Forces sa lahat ng mga tao. Ina-assume nila Palestino. At kung Palestino, kahit na wala kang armas, may white flag ka, nagsusurrender ka, malaya silang pumatay. Basta't Palestino. Ganyan po ang tingin ng Israeli Defense Forces. But actually, there are many issues there, including racism, but we don't have time to go deep into that. I will just go on to the next one. Of course, we come back to the domestic matter kasi hindi naman malaki po ito, but we can see the abuse of the oligarchs po, yung pagbabaha po sa residents ng Camellia Classic Homes, multinational village in Parañaque, nagbabaha po. At kanilang tinuturo ang kasalanan sa likod nito. Ang may kasalanan ay Villar family for the flooding they are complaining about. Kaya hindi pwede dapat sa Senado itong mga oligarchs eh. Kasi they will just use their position to protect their misdeeds. Okay, that's the last item I have, no? So that's it, Kaado, and everybody, 1 minute to 8 o'clock. And so, final words from you, Kaado.
Well, it's Christmas, and let's bring glad tidings to all. And but the curse of the new year dito sa mga nagpapagamit sa mga Amerikano para hindi matuloy ang ating magandang kinabukasan. Pinuspone. May tanong si I think I lost it, but may tanong si JB Ejercito. Ha? Kung bakit
Ano
daw
tanong?
sinisingle, may mga pangalan siyang binitawan, kung bakit daw sinisingle out. Yang listahan ng mga sinisingle out na according to you ng mga pangalan ng mga so-called trolls na inaakusahan mo, examinin ninyo ang konsensya nyo. Dahil there is only one explanation kung bakit ayaw kayo suportahan sa social media. Hindi patungkol sa national interest at sa interest lalo na ng mga mahihirap na mga kasama natin dito sa Philippine Corporation Incorporated. Hindi nyo sila nire-representa. That is as simple as the answer.
Okay.
So, Merry Christmas, and hopefully let it be a prosperous New Year, which we already know and established during the time of Duterte, that this prosperity can only come at this point if China is our best friend. Kung hindi,
Yes.
maiwan tayo sa kangkungan.
Sabi nga ni Yuugin 81, walang exploration na mangyayari dyan sa West Philippine Sea kung hindi kasama mga claimants. That means kasama ang China at ibang mga bansa. Kaya po, huwag tayong magpahadlang sa Amerikano at ituloy natin ang usapan. From Rufino Lopez, welcome to GTNR. May bronze siya. And sana marami pa pong oras pero we run out of time. We have to say good night. And we will see each other again on Sunday morning, Unfinished Revolution. Tuloy po ang laban po natin, holiday or not. At masaya naman po tayo dito sa ating ginagawa. And thank you very much at mga tulong po ninyo sa pagpapalaganap po ng buong katotohanan. Have a good week ahead of you at ingat po. Medyo lumalakas ang COVID kaya kaunting ingat lang po. Bye.